Hey everyone, it's Alex.
And I'm Matt.
We're over here at Powder7 HQ, and we've got the skinny skis out today.
The skinny
carvers.
rippers.
The skinny rippers.
Fit for laying trenches.
The solid carving category. So this is your more traditional carvers. We're looking at around like less than 84 underfoot for most of these. So pretty purpose built for carving on firm snow or on groomed terrain. Some of the things are going to have a flash more versatility than others, but if you're looking for something that is going to be able to carve and go into the bumps, you want to be more in the front side category or narrow all mountain, because these are going to have pretty limited rocker, pretty stiff and stout constructions made for going fast and making lots of turns.
Pretty much purpose built for being on their edges on trails. Varying degrees, we'll get into it, varying degrees of like bump ability, I think. But yeah, crushing the front side of the mountain, skiing fast, or just at least really precise in the fronts of your boots, making carves, technical skiing. Or crushing that or being kind of new to it. There's a little bit of everything over here.
Either way, you're trying to get those skis on edge.
Rail arcs.
Yeah, the art of the carve.
The art of the carve. That's going to be these skis. What should we kick it off with, Alex?
Well, I want to know about this one. I've never seen this.
All right.
I don't think I've ever seen that color before in my life.
Bright pink. It's not your traditional carving ski. And that's kind of by design. It's from Faction. This is the Dancer 79.
Faction?
They
make carving skis?
Faction. They make carving skis now. And so what Faction did with the Dancer 79 is defied expectations from people who thought that the Dancer 1 was skinny enough and brought some all-mountain flavor, as they are Faction, all the way down into this narrowest waist width that they offer. And so a couple big things to point out. When you look at the shape of this ski, it just doesn't really look like a bona fide carving ski. It doesn't look like it has a ton of side cut. And I think that tip shape, a lot more progressive and tapered versus immediate side cut has a lot to do with that. You've got like a little tiny splash of early rise tails. And a tiny splash of early rise in the tips. That's pretty common in this category, just to help initiate and link carves. Also, this is not a system ski, so Dancer 79, kind of true to this brand from Faction, is something that you would just match a break width for and put a regular binding on. So not a system ski, bright pink, a little bit of a different shape. How does it ski on snow? It might surprise some people that this ski just absolutely rails in its carving category. It's not one of those skis that comes from like a more freeride minded brand and then kind of can't keep up in the carving world. I think that it is built to charge and be skied by strong skiers. It's got a 17-meter radius, that'll be something we come back to as a tech spec in this category, because it tells you a lot about what a ski wants to do in this category, maybe more than any other. So that's kind of long for the carving category. And I think these skis want to be laid on edge and ripped with longer GS style turns, really by people who like to freeride ski, but they want a narrower ski and they want to charge and attack the fall line. It's a poplar wood core, which is a lively and lightweight wood that's very common, especially in that wider all-mountain and freeride category. And then there's 2 sheets of Titanol in here. So it's a construction that we see in wider categories, making for really lively and powerful skis that are able to handle a bunch of stuff that you throw at them. That applies here. So I think across this wall, this would be one of the better skis for attacking bump lines. As long as you need to be a strong skier in the front of your boots, these skis really help you stay planted to your fall line. And the shape is not hooky compared to some other skis in this category where they kind of have to be on edge. I think the Dancer 79 can be not railed over on its edges, and it can attack, bump lines. It can slither through if you find yourself in a tree alley. It's got some of that all mountain ski DNA. It's not the primary use case for it, but I think it's gonna be more able to handle some of that stuff because of its shape. So I really like the Dancer 79. Again, not an intro carving ski, I don't think, because that long radius. but it's super lively and fun for people who want to ski fast and rail cars.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that because the next dancer up is the dancer 1, which I think is like 89 or 90 underfoot. So they really just like went for it by going for a 79. Like they definitely easily could have made this like an 84 and it would be in that cool like versatile frontside category. But I feel like because they made it so narrow, it still really commits it to excelling on cars.
Yeah, I just think it's like so aimed at people who have wider skis too and love and spend most of their time on those, but like we always talk about, want to add a skinnier ski for low tide days or beginning end of the year. This one just kind of matches in your mind a lot of those skis you ski in the wider waist widths. This one kind of makes sense to pair as your narrow ski for ribbon cars.
That's sick.
Yeah, you knew it.
They also make that in a white top sheet with pink sidewalls, which is pretty Miami Vice, and I love that.
What you got there?
Let's start with the new ski. This is the K2 Blur XT, kind of a similar, like, what the heck? A K2 carving ski. Like, I didn't know they made carving skis, and they do, and they make them very well. So this is the new Blur line from K2. You've got this one's right around 84 underfoot, 83. You've got aspen core, kind of similar to the poplar core. That's generally kind of like a lighter, more softer flexing wood compared to what you would see in a lot of carving skis with like beech or maple or something like that. But they pair it with this like pretty hefty sidewall and then this H beam, they call it, sheet of metal. So just like the way the letter H looks with the, the bridge underfoot, and you've got your prongs kind of going into the tip and tail. Pretty much all the way up to here on the tip and then all the way through the tail to add that like rigidity. But what's cool about the H frame is it does allow that to like shear a little bit, so you're not going to run into a super planky option. This ski's got like quite a bit of energy and feels, I at least felt like it was pretty compliant at slower speeds, but absolutely could not find a speed limit when I was skiing it. It's got a pretty traditional shape, healthy tip rocker, but back here, not a lot of tail rocker and certainly not nearly as much rise and splay as that Faction Dancer had. This ski felt way more plush and damp to me than I expected, and I don't come from a carving background. I learned how to ski out here on soft snow, and it was something that I could hop on and felt like I could carve pretty well on, and it's something I saw you ripping around on just as hard as you could.
Yeah, it really allows you to be super precise and intentional with what type of carve you want to make.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy, shout out to Monarch Mountain Ski School here in Colorado. Got a buddy who is an instructor working his way up in PSIA, and he loves these K2 carving skis for being like a ski that in PSIA, the attention to like micro movements and tiny little details in your movements to influence, turn shapes to almost a disgusting degree when you're PSIA level 3. This is a ski where he really enjoys it for being extremely responsive to those micro adjustments to make subtle tweaks to your attack and your turn shapes and based on what terrain you're in.
I can kind of see that in the shape because it is like so precise and traditional through the rear, but like this front end of the ski does have a pretty significant amount of rocker and like kind of a slightly softer flex through the tip, so it really allows you to like smoothly engage the shovel while holding a turn nicely. So this is just a really great all-around carver, I think, for people who similarly may want to add a carving ski to their collection, or if you're a little bit more experienced and you want that more traditional carver in your lineup.
For sure. Building off the idea with Faction of like, what's that doing on the wall? This is a DPS carving ski. This is the Pisteworks 79 Ted Liggety Pro model. You could refer to it as.
Here he is.
This is, there's Ted.
Dragging his knee on the ground.
So yeah, this is DPS's latest shot at making high performance carving skis. And so they've got Ted Liggety R&Ding these puppies. And basically what the Pisteworks 79 is kind of inspired by is that old Cassiar 79 trainer skis. So skis that like athletes and ski trainers would would get on to like really push the envelope of like high edge angles and kind of like maximizing how many turns you can put in a short amount of space, really precise short radius carve types of skis. So these versus, while the dancers came in at 17 meter turn radius, these are down at 13 and a half. So that's going to tell you that when you just lay these puppies on edge, they're going to want to gravitate toward shorter radius arcs. You've also got no metal in this ski. This is going to be 2 sheets of carbon laminate, pretty classic DPS. These are very light. Yeah, tons of camber. Hello. Very light. So what we're getting, like you could, if you see the weight of these on the page, this would actually be the type of weight we could put like tech AT binding on and go touring with. Not that we would do that with this ski, but that's the weight that we're at, which is kind of shocking for the carving category where you think like heavy metal skis. That means,
the sticker says the 174 is 1,600 grams, 1,650.
So 3,300 for the pair.
That's pretty light.
That's lighter than my touring ski, to give you some context. So what are we putting together the pieces here? Fairly soft for this category, flex and the shovel. Tons of camber underfoot, like Alex pointed out. The carbon for a whole lot of liveliness and energy. You've got a ski that wants to just absolutely rip short radius arcs that will almost like come off the ground. Some of these skis, sometimes I feel like I'm gonna buck myself or go over the handlebars, because if you come out of skiing, like ones I'll talk about that are a lot heavier with 2 sheets of metal, you gotta push into them. If you come from that to skiing a ski like this, you might be like, oh man, because you're coming off the ground in between your carves. So it's a really fun, dynamic, lively feeling for carving that I think is a little more unique in this category. If you want to like charge and ski technically strong on a very strong ski with a lot of torsional rigidity, and you, especially if you come from like a race background, this might be too wild for you. You might want to stick to like something more hefty, a little more beef. But Ted really likes this, and I think it's a fun iteration of a carving ski to experience like a whole new level of liveliness and energy, very lightweight.
It's super unique, right? Like DPS is known for their carbon fiber constructions, and they've just kind of put it on this like crazy, skinny carving oriented platform, and there's not much like it out there where that has really been done before. So I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, our coworker Justin got on these at our ski test and doesn't usually have a lot to say about a carving ski, and he found himself kind of converted by this ski. Really stoked on those short radius carves.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a cool option if you're someone who is more practiced in carving and you want something a little bit different to try it out.
Totally.
Cool. Save all the Stocklis for the end. Do a Stockli segment. First up, I've got the highlighter ski for the year. I actually love the way these turned out. Cool. I saw the product image and I was like, I don't know, but they look sweet in real life. This is the Black Crow's Octo. This was a new ski from last year, and you might have recognized some details here, like this funky tip shape and the kind of dramatic side cut. It is a compliment, I would say, to the Mirror's core. But essentially, Black Crowes wanted to make a Mirror's core that was a little less wild. While the Mirror's core is like heavily rockered with soft ends, it's kind of a weird ski. Like it's so stiff underfoot, and it's got kind of those, it's not gonna like properly, if you hop on it as an intermediate, it's not going to really properly teach you how to carve. Whereas something like this is actually going to introduce you to like the art of the carve, right? So you've got this kind of cool exaggerated side cut, 14 meter turn radius, and the 173, 84 underfoot. So a little bit on the more versatile end. Tons of camber underfoot again. Tip rocker. And especially compared to the Mirror's core, much more traditional tail in that there's not a ton of rocker or splay, and that dramatic side cut on the Mirror's core is much more tampered down, especially at the rear of the ski. Full wood core though as well, it's a much more accessible option on this wall. So if you're someone who likes the idea of carving, or you're interested in progressing on trail and working on your carves, this is a sick option to kind of give you the confidence to push those edge angles a little bit higher without something with a little bit more metal in it that's going to be less accessible to engage. Like it's just going to, kind of buck you when you're not on the shovels properly.
Totally. True to form for Black Crows, probably the most, again, buzzword alert, accessible carver on the wall. For people who want to get into rolling their ankles and engaging those edges.
Yeah. But I think it's a great option to have in their quiver. And I was super impressed with this in bumps. It was snappy, really energetic. I just truly, when I tested this, didn't really have high expectations. I was like, oh, it's just a little like front side rental ski. But that's not really what this is at all. I think it's a pretty cool option for the carving category to have. And the sidewalls say, let me take you dancing.
Wow. Stealing some thunder from the dancer here. All right, we'll change gears a little bit. I think a lot of it. Volkl Peregrine 82, the ski debuted last year as part of Volkl's new push to be thought of once again as one of the top frontside carving ski brands in the industry, which is traditionally a role that they've happily occupied. And Peregrine is their aim at barnstorming that category again, using some of the tech from wider models like Mantra and putting that stuff into narrower options Peregrine. So this is at 82. I think we'll just right off the bat, after especially the last ski we talked about, coming in at like 3,600 grams for the pair in DPS. You're over 4,000 grams for the pair in Peregrine. So this is going to be, number one, just a whole lot heavier and a lot more like what you typically think of as a recreational carving ski.
Integrated system set bindings.
Integrated system set bindings. So very damp feel on snow. I find these skis extremely intuitive to carve and make a lot of different shapes of carves with. It's a 15-meter radius, so it's smack dab in the middle of the two we've talked about so far, which I think really checks out for how this ski feels on snow. I think the dancer would prefer to make longer carves, although it can make shorter ones. The DPS would prefer to make really short carves, and if you gotta really push it to make it hold up making longer ones. Mm-hmm. Peregrine is like, okay, I'm down to do either way. And so you get 3D radius side cut, which is some of the marketing smoke that Volkl has been talking about for a few years now, especially in their wider skis. That essentially means that the ski has 3 different turn radii between the tip, middle of the ski, and the tails. So that allows you, as we've talked about with the front side mantras, the all mountain mantras, to make different turn shapes and different turn sizes at different speeds and be okay and not beat up. I do think, compared to about half the skis on the wall-ish, Peregrine's going to be not the most new carver-friendly carving ski. I don't think it pulls you into carves quite like some of these other ones do. However, I think you get a super intuitive ski with a little bit higher top end that is remarkably smooth. Mm-hmm. If I was going to buy a carving ski tomorrow, this would be one of my top choices personally. It really wants to be driven again, but because of its friendly shape and kind of midpoint turn radius, it's kind of a do-it-all ski in this category. And at 82 millimeters underfoot, it's not just a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
So it's got a little bit more kind of all mountain carving chops to it.
Yeah, there's a ton of Peregrines. There's the 80, which is super similar to this, but a little bit softer, definitely in that like accessible entry-level carving category, all the way down to 72 and 76 and 72 and 76 Masters, both each. And those are going to be a little bit more less versatile, like you just said, like a little bit more like purpose-built for either long or short turns, depending on which Peregrine you get. So if you're interested in a carving ski from Volkl, this is kind of like the wearer of many caps.
For sure. And I think that makes it, for some people, right, this could be just an all mountain ski. For people who are like technically strong skiers, they think we're crazy for always talking about wide skis. And 82 sounds like a whole lot of waist width to them based off their ski backgrounds. For that kind of a skier, this is like one ski to rule them all. Like This is your all mountain ski at this waist width category.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, big ups for Peregrine.
Speaking of, that segued really well for kind of adventuring off the trail, off the beaten path in the carving category. This is the Stockli Montero AR. I dub AR as all around, even though I don't know if that's actually what it stands for. The Montero replaced the Laser series a couple of seasons ago, several seasons now, and Montero didn't replace the Laser. It kind of is a new category for Stockli in, they call it all mountain pieced rather than pure pieced. So the Montero skis all have, I would say, like pieced bones and a pieced core, but they have a little bit all mountain flavor to give it just a little bit of extra versatility for exploring and doing the occasional bump lap or, goodness forbid, a tree alley, like you said.
Buckle your seatbelt, put in your mouthpiece.
The AR is 84 underfoot. What's the turn radius on this guy? 15. Cool. So yeah, like right in the middle. This one also feels similar to the Peregrine in that you can kind of play with turn shapes a little bit. An update from last year was Stockli added these milled kind of slots in the tetanol layer, both at the tip and tail, just to give you a slight more torsional flexibility at those ends. So you've still got metal like solidly all the way through, just with little holes to help give you just a little bit more compliance at slower speeds. And again, ideally make it a little bit more fun in bumps and off trail. But this is just a super classic Stockli smooth riding, really plush and full of like really damp suspension, like riding an enduro bike, you know, or a downhill bike at the bike park, and you're like riding over little rocks and you don't feel anything. So this is a great ski if you're dealing with a lot of like weird man-made snow. It's gonna quiet that stuff really well.
Machine groomed frozen granular for all the East Coast skiers out there.
Exactly. Not I. What do you think, Matt? How do you like the AR and the Montero family?
I like it. It's personally for me, it's my favorite in the Montero family because I like that 15-meter turn radius, 84 millimeters underfoot. It's a lot. It's got a lot going on that is comparable to the Peregrine in my book, and so I like a ski with kind of that radius in this category. I'd probably err more on the side of like longer GS style carves.
Yeah.
But like I do like to then throw in some quicker ones.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps you in bumps, like you said, if you venture that way, which I have taken the AR down long bump runs, and it's not the easiest ski to maneuver a bump line with.
Yeah.
Right. But it is very planted, and it is more able to do that than a ski with like a lot straighter side cut.
Yeah.
In this category.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that.
I skied this at a 175, which is like a comfy length for me in like free ride skis with tons of rocker. And it was, you know, I had to think about it when I was on the bumps. Yeah, it was not like no easy
For
task. So it's definitely got some backbone to it.
Well, to your question, which is a great segue, this one's another Stockli. This is the Montero AS. So AR is going to be the widest in that new Montero family. And then the AS is going to be the narrowest, and then the turn radius kind of matches that. So a bunch of side cut in this ski, more so than those the AR, the longer ones, and a shorter turn radius. So this is going to be a lot more profiled at 76 millimeters underfoot as your recreational slalom type ski. 14-meter turn radius, and so. You can get on some of the, like the SL would be a good comp for this ski.
The Laser SL.
SL. As beefier, more race-like slalom ski. Recreational slalom ski. And then the AS is more of your, not dulled down or diluted, but a little bit more friendly carver in the Montero family. So biggest thing that's doing that is that flex torsion control, to what Alex was talking about before. You get some notches in the metal in this ski that helps the ski be very stout and strong and rigid when you really want to push into it on those short radius carves. You know, you're getting up to a high edge angle, but then you're wanting to kind of explode out of that into your next carve. And so it firms up and is really rigid and powerful when you've got it engaged. And when you disengage it to transition into your next carve, The notches just give you a more dynamic feel and a more predictable performance that can feel more precise versus like full plankier sheets of metal.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I think like the Montero AX has been such a huge shop favorite, which is the middle ski in this line. And it's why like our staffers who get on this love it, even if they're a little bit newer to carving.
Yeah, totally. I feel like folks will hop on either like the AS or AX and kind of be a little surprised at how well that they can, you know, get on top of it, even if they haven't been on a carving ski before.
For sure. Yeah.
And substantially more tip rocker than
Yep.
I'm assuming the lasers and all that. So
yeah, a little more early ride just to help. Nothing really to talk about in the tails there. The camber goes pretty much right through the tail. A little splash of early rides just to help the ease of initiating those carves.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, it's no surprise. I mean, Stockli kind of, there's not much better than Stockli in the carving category, just with how crazy good their suspension is and all that. So it's a third Stockli ski, mostly because I wanted to shout out a women-specific model. Typically, there's not a ton of women-specific carving skis out there, but Stockli has several. Not up here is the new Laser MP, which is essentially a women's laser WRT Pro, which is a heavy-duty carving ski, we'll call it. So that's basically a WRT down in some sizes. But this is the Stockli Montero AW, which is all women, we'll say it stands for. A lighter wood core in this than the men's models. This one's at 80 underfoot. The turn radius is 14. Nice. So kind of just giving you a little bit, shaving a little bit of weight, giving you a slightly wider platform. I find slightly wider skis a little bit more, like less committing. Like stuff like under 80 just really feels like you're like, you tilt it and you're there. And it's a little intimidating for me. So you get a little extra width just to make that a little bit more comfortable. But you still get a lot of the same great tech, like the adaptive contact link and the flex torsion controls. So you get a lot of the bells and whistles of the other stuff, just shaved down and lightened up for our lighter weight and generally smaller riders. And these come down into pretty short sizes as well. So it's cool to have an option for the ladies who are also working on the art of the carve, but don't feel like they need to, chase down the boys that are being super reckless at Mach 10 or whatever.
Totally. Totally. Again, really friendly at multiple speeds, but a high top end.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, I think I'm rounding this one out on my side with a ski from Kastle that we have been talking about at Powder7 for years and years and years. So this is the MX84. Kastle has made small tweaks like colored top sheets and some internal changes over the years, some changes to the hollow tech, vibration reducing tips. But by and large, MX has stayed very consistent and true to who these skis are over the years. 84 MX is kind of the flagship in that collection. And if you're kind of looking at the profile, you've got the tails go hard, very squared off, very directional. You've got a little bit of early rise up here. Like once again, we've harped on it. That is not for skiing. That's not for powder performance. Like in wider ski videos, we're talking about tip rocker for powder and surf and smear. In this category, it's really just for ease of turn initiation and smooth carving. So MX84 has retained its character as a heavier, beefier, more demanding ski in this category. So at our ski test, like we've talked about, we'll have some people who are like newer to carving get on like one of the Monteros, like the AX, maybe get on
even like the blur.
Especially, and say like, oh wow, okay, like a little bit less than I had imagined. I don't think I've heard that for the MX. I think I've heard feedback from some of those same people like, oh man, this might be a little too much for me.
Yeah.
This might be like something I got to grow into, and if I'm not really driving it, then it is driving me. And I think that the MX, which I really like about it, is kind of just retained that character. If you're a strong skier, technically strong in the front of your boots, driving the ski through the shovels, I don't think they feel bulky. I think they feel like responsive, very quick edge to edge, They've got that smooth special sauce Kastle feel that we've been talking about for years, which is something you get that's kind of premium with like Stockli's and these Kastle MXs. So the Kastle special sauce and that high top end with like kind of best in class responsiveness if you're really driving the skis, living kind of in your shovels. I think that's what you get with MX84.
So we put the MX88 in the front side category. That's only 4 millimeters different. What's the big deal between the two?
Totally. A little bit. I believe there's a little more early rise in the tips of the 88s.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like makes sense for being in that category. I think the 88s would be a ski that you're living in that front side all mountain category where it's a little more all mountain and you might find yourself in more bump runs, or you just want to like charge around the mountain on bless you, on a ski with a little bit more heft and make like long carves everywhere on the mountain, down like big wide open groovers that I think a copper.
Yeah.
I think in the MX84, you're thinking a little bit more of like those really quick carves, 16 meter radius here. So this can make long radius carves. I think versus the 88, you get a little bit slimmer underfoot, means it's just quicker to roll over edge to edge, a little bit more nimble, a little bit more lightning, kind of lightning in your legs.
Ooh,
lightning in your legs.
Lightning and thunder maybe in the MX.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We've arrived at a cool analogy. So yeah, 84 would be the move if you're, again, like somebody that you live in this category and you want like a high end, albeit not super narrow carving ski. And then 88 being more, you want to live in that all mountain category, all mountain front side, but you want to retain like a lot of camber, a very directional shape, and you still want to be laying arcs most of the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not the skis for me, but I respect those that do. I think that rounds out our carving category
It sure does.
this year. Which one are you taking out on a hot date?
Whew! I'm taking out the dancer on a hot date for sure.
Obviously.
You gotta make a splash. In this age, it's all about splashy impressions and standing out above the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to look at that ski and not think that way.
Yeah.
But I think if I was gonna buy one for me, I think I'd come back to the Peregrine. I think it's as being super intuitive with a bunch of different styles of carving.
Yeah.
I think it matches my style, and I think it's a really solid, fun one that blends a lot of different characteristics on the wall.
Yeah, that's sick.
How about you? Date ski?
Oh, the Montero, obviously.
Nice.
Because we're going to a fancy place for dinner.
Ooh, swanky.
Yeah, swanky. But I think if I was going to buy one, it'd be between the Montero AR and the Blur, probably. Again, just once I get under 80, I just really get a little nervous getting the skis on edge. It just like feels so committed.
Too quick.
Yeah. It's just like as soon as you're like even getting over there, it's like on, you know. So I want a little bit more girth for my carving ski. And I actually had a great time on the Blur. It felt like a ski that I could like properly carve and then also like continue to progress with as I work on like getting my hip lower and lower and getting more high edge angles. So this one feels like the best for me where I'm at right now. So
awesome. Well, that's our carving category.
Quick and nimble, just like these
just like these skis. So we've got all these skis here at Powder7 HQ and online at powder7.com. We also, Alex has written about them and pulled tester feedback in our written buyer's guide on the Liftline blog, linked below. Give us a subscribe. Stay tuned for future content and have a great winter.
See ya.